Hello, you dirty potters. How are you today? If you're watching this video, you're probably wondering, what is grog? Potters throw this word around like it's normal ceramic artist vernacular, and not only do I not have any idea what it is, but no one's ever stopped to actually explain what grog is to me. So in today's video, we're going to be going over what grog is, what it does for you and your work, and some of the deeper aspects of grog and how it gets in your clay body, because you will be choosing a clay sooner or later, and you will need to know what type of grog you have in your clay and how it affects you and how you feel on the wheel or sculpting as an artist. Firstly, let's go over the big definition. What is grog exactly? Grog is basically ceramic terminology to say that there's crushed up and tumbled around brick or fired ceramic inside of your clay body. Grog does a lot for a clay body. It helps with your evenness and drying. It gives your clay some tooth so you can help build it up. It helps a lot with the toughness and the durability of the clay body itself. In fact, many sculptors prefer lots of clay with grog in them so they can build higher and higher without any structural damage going on in their clay. On the other side of that, lots of potters, wheel thrown ceramic artists and the like to choose clay with less grog in it so that they have a smoother experience. TLDR, grog is pretty much little crushed up rocks inside of your clay body that helps with a little bit of the toughness and drying of the clay body. Now, there are many different types of clays out there, some with or without grog variations. A fantastic example of this is the very popular and common clay B-Mix. B-Mix has a grog and a smooth version. The smooth version being no grog added when they produced it inside of the mineral company, and the grog version being, well, having grog in it. While B-Mix Smooth or B-Mix No Grog is much more porcelain-like, B-Mix with grog has a lot more tooth to it, dries a little bit more evenly. You don't have to worry about it as much, you can kind of slap it around. And many sculptors prefer B-Mix with grog. In a nutshell, that's basically what grog is. It's an additive that a lot of mineral companies and clay producers put inside of your clay body to give it some tooth, some grit, some durability, and to help it dry a little bit more evenly. Majoritively made out of crushed brick or other fired ceramic. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt your hands. It's generally tumbled around, and there's a bunch of different types, and there's a bunch of different meshes that they come in. A little potter tip here, just to get into the weeds, there are many different types of grog, and they also come in different tumbles and meshes and sieves and the like. For example, if we go on Digital Fire, a fantastic website for a glossary for ceramic artists and potters, you can see just an entire list of different types of grog that companies add to clay bodies to give them a bit more tooth, help them dry, etc., as I've said before. On top of that, you find that they come in a bunch of different sizes and meshes. Some of them are a bit smaller and smooth, and some of them are a bit larger with a rocky texture to them. Be warned, just because you have a clay with grog in it doesn't mean all clays with grog in them are exactly the same. So if you have a clay with grog in it and you go, I don't like it, it hurts my hands, and I feel like the rock chunks are a little too big, you can easily ask the person behind the counter, or you can ask the distributor of the clay, hey, can I get something with a finer grog in it? And usually they'll give you something that's a bit less rough on your hands. I just want to get that out of the way because I meet a bunch of people who are like, I hate grog, it hurt my hands one time, but they have no idea that there's an entire subsection of other grogs out there, and they probably have a lot more success with their clay bodies, getting less S-cracks, drying a little more evenly, and building a bit higher if they're sculptors, if they just chose a different grog instead of assuming that all grogs are the same. And that's pretty much what grog is. Now, if you've clicked on this video because you're wondering whether you should pick a grog or non-grog clay body and you're just getting into ceramics, I'm going to give you the same recommendation that I give a lot of my students. Most of you don't know whether you're sculptors or potters at the moment, so I suggest you get a clay body that is familiar to you, but it's easy to transfer from a non-grog to a grog version. And as I said before, I think B-Mix is a perfect example of that. It's kind of an everyman's clay. It's not really good at any one specific thing, but for beginners, you get to experience what it is to have grog, at least at some amount, in your clay body, so you can sculpt with it a little bit, and you also get to experience the smooth, creamy, not really porcelain, but as close as you can get, which is what we call B-Mix Smooth. But they're basically the same clay. One just has grog in it, while the other one doesn't. Once you experience both of these clay bodies, it's pretty easy to choose a grog variation of the clay body that you already like, and if you want a bit more grit because you're building higher, bigger, even flatter, and you need things to dry a little bit more evenly, you can always ask the producer of the clay body or the person behind the counter, hey, I like B-Mix with grog, but I need something with a little bit more tooth and grog to it. What do you suggest? And this will give them a pretty good direction to go into because they know that you've already experienced a basic clay with grog in it. My last little potter tip to you is that these are the basic rules for what grog is and what they do for you in your clay body. But we have the technology to kind of break those rules. Sooner or later, you're gonna find a clay body that's very porcelain-like, but someone just added an extra mineral to it, and it's technically not grog clay, but it feels like grog because it feels a bit heavier based on your experience. A fantastic representation of that is one of my favorite clay bodies called dragon fruit. Dragon fruit is pretty much porcelain with one added mineral to it, but that mineral really feels like grog. The only difference is that grog has color to it, so when it's fully fired, it comes out like this. Kind of like speckled buff, but it has a blue tinge to it instead of this kind of sandy texture to it. So sometimes you get clay bodies that have a little bit of an additive that make it feel a little bit closer to something with grog in it, but they usually have utility, such as in the case of dragon fruit. The last and final tip I have to give to you about the very basic knowledge around grog, what it is and what it does for your clay body, is that somewhere far in the future, once you decide what clay body you like, what kind of grog you like, you talk to the manufacturer, the mineral company, and they tell you exactly what kind of grog and what meshes in your clay body. You can very easily pick up a little bag of it yourself, and on the wedging table, wedge that grog into any clay body you want. Sometimes the distributors don't put enough, or they don't put not enough grog into your clay body, and you want something in the middle. You can very easily buy yourself a bag of grog from the company and wedge it directly into your clay body. It does take a while to make it nice and homogeneous through the clay body, but anything that is seen as more control over your personal expression of artwork in the ceramic art world is seen as a good thing for the culture. I'm not saying go buy yourself a bag of grog right now to wedge into your porcelain. I'm just saying far in the future, once you figure out how much grog you enjoy inside your clay body and you want to build a little bit higher but it doesn't have the tooth that you want it to, find out what grog you have, buy a little bag of it, and wedge it directly into your clay body. That'll probably give you a little bit more durability when you're building a very tall sculpture or making super big pots like I do sometimes. Well, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. I'm trying to make more videos like this that are educational on pottery terms, and hopefully I can squash a lot of the mysticism that comes along with those ceramic art terms. Good luck on your next art project. Remember to hit all those YouTube buttons so YouTube doesn't hit me with a bag of grog in the middle of the night, and I will see you, Dirty Potters, next week.
Thank you for your patronage.